Let's start with this. Every single Warhammer 40k faction explained part 2. We watched part 1 and it was a lot of information, but yeah, let's go.
Hey all, this is part 2 in a 2-part series on
If the volume is too loud or too low, please tell me.
If you haven't seen part 1 yet, we do the Imperium of Man.
I gotta lock in.
Description, and I would highly recommend
because this is gonna be long. This is an hour long.
Episode. If you already have, go ahead and keep on watching. So after an entire episode of
getting a headache after being injected with Warhammer 40k Lewis earlier. Yeah, because it was like, what? It was like 40, 50 minutes long. It was like almost an hour long. It's a teeny bit low. Let me turn that up a little bit.
Nothing but humans. We can now talk about chaos, which involves.
Because like whenever I talk, the volume might go down because of my settings on OBS.
But a little bit less. We also got demons and shit.
Yo,
someone grab my
Daemons.
What? Like
what?
hard, Nick.
So as I've
Perfect.
mentioned many
Nice.
times before, we've discussed the warp, the image.
Yeah, that's like the that's HE double hockey sticks of the Warhammer universe, and it's made its energy from emotions and feelings. It's very sentimental. It's like can't do that joke. I'm gonna say so stream.
Hellish landscape, the purgatory.
I thought of like 2 different jokes and they were both not safe.
Realm of our existence. Now in the warp, it's terrifying, horrible. There are demons everywhere. Things are crazy.
No, but it's energy. It's just because a lot of feelings are bad. Ow, that is so loud.
All your
Hello,
minds,
Slav.
and thoughts, and emotions get projected there. It is both formless and empty. It is vast and tiny. It obeys the laws of time and physics while simultaneously does absolutely nothing of the sort. It is a hodgepodge and culmination of just unknowable, eldritch, horrifying shit. And there are 4 gods that permeate in chaos and the warp. These are the
It's Yargle. It's Multani, then it's what was the Slanesh? It was Slanesh and Yargle. Those were the 4
major chaos gods. And if we wish to learn about chaos, we
Slanesh. I remember
each
Slanesh.
and every single one
It was
of these
Gargle,
chaos gods.
Yargle,
First up, we have
Khorne.
And he is the easiest. Khorne is your classic Satan.
Chelsea's just having a mental breakdown.
He is all about anger, murder, fighting, blood, guts, death. You ever heard the term blood for the blood god,
Skull for the skull throne?
That's Khorne. The whole idea is that
blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne.
He is all about the fury and strength of battle.
So that's him. I didn't know
where blood comes from. So
he just wants it.
Blood is flowing. He wants to fight and murder and carnage and slaughter and death, 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 death. That is Khorne. Very simple to understand. Next up, you have Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is the god of change. However, the god of change.
The change god? In Stars and Time, the change god, Tzeentch. Hello, Janus.
It permeates in so many different other ways. He's the most eldritch of all the demon gods.
He looks like Cthulhu.
He has this weird way to always be plucking at
if he had a child with like a Terraria boss.
The strings of the universe. He's always conniving and scheming and doing his best to cause as much little bullshit as he can. Tzeentch is
the goober.
Everything that makes sense, he will and won't do. Every future and setting and every type of destiny or fate is all foretold and also changeable. It is set in stone while also completely random. He knows what everything is going to happen.
A gambler.
And also that none of it's going to happen. You would ask Tzeentch
why does he have a mouth in his belly button?
Leads to 3 more questions, and those questions lead to the heat death of the universe, which asks 4 answers to those questions. And then he thinks to himself, what are questions even really? And are you even asking the questions, or are you simply giving paths to answers?
Oh, he's a philosopher. That makes sense.
And other horse shit. Tzeentch is just, I'm gonna fuck with stuff. He is yes and he is no. He is the understanding and he is complexity. He is unknowable. And that's what the god of change is about.
The thinker. The Nord emoji.
He likes birds a lot. I don't know why. Next up we got Papa Nurgle. Papa Nurgle, he loves you for
and
who
Multani
you are.
from Magic the Gathering.
He will murder you just
I have
the
that
same.
card.
But Papa Nurgle is about rot, pestilence, death, and decay.
It's
he is the end of everything. Him and Tzeentch do not like each other very much because
where
Tzeentch represents change and adjustment, Nurgle represents stagnation and death. He is all about asthma, pestilence,
that power went
large
Welcome back.
bloat and pus and organs and people just being sedentary.
He looks like caca. Why does he look like caca pile?
Sloth. He is the idea that everything will rot and decay and die. Nothing is certain besides decay and death. All of us will end up the
Is he friends
same
with
way,
Korn?
broken down through just sheer never-ending
Zombies.
decomposition. So the joke that Nurgle always loves you is
Are they friends? Do they hang out?
because we all end up
I need to drink
the
some more
same.
coffee.
We all rot and we all die and wither. That's Nurgle, and he's got a general theme of
pronounced
course,
Yargle.
pestilence and different kinds of diseases and sickness and
Let me turn
things
this
of
up a
that
little
nature.
bit.
That's generally Nurgle. He's pretty easy to understand as well, and he chunk. Finally, we have the youngest of the
There it
Chaos gods, and that
is.
Slanesh,
Slanesh.
also known as the Prince of Pleasure or the God of
Why is he
unspeakable
censoring his own stuff? There's something called the Great Game, which is a war in the warp between the Chaos Gods and Zeech nearly won, but thought, and that's not very fun, so he just didn't. We can continue. Is that real though? Whenever I read something in chat, there's always like YouTube. There's always like comments on the YouTube, especially for the Warhammer stuff. Like, everyone in chat is wrong. No, that's not actually what happened. You see, they're only partially gay.
excess. Slanesh is
Wood?
generally referred to
Same.
with
Welcome on, Honored.
sex. But it's not only
Let's go.
sex, it's just that's a good avenue if you want to make stuff.
Oh.
Slanesh is just the idea of the senses of the body being cranked to not just 11, but more like 17. So we'll
Oh,
discuss Slanesh a little bit
okay.
more when we talk about the Eldar, because they done fucked up. But she...
The Eldar, the yells, yeah.
it or whatever is mainly about just the excess of emotions, and therefore sex is generally a large part of it. However, it's
Oh.
mostly
Well,
pain
I'm right.
and
I hope
torture.
you are.
Lots of pain, torture, but sometimes sexually related or
Oh.
drug related. Lots of drugs.
Lots of drugs. Lots of drugs.
Slanesh gets off on everything. Extremes in
Great
happiness,
zoom in.
extremes
They're really
in
good.
sadness, extremes in pain and sadism and masochism, and of course that goes along with the sex part of it as
WWW.
well.
Oh.
It's generally referred to with sex because of the color scheme, very purple, lots of exposed genitalia. A lot of their models have like exposed nipples and stuff, and that is generally the theme you go for from a physical side. But it really
Slanesh.
embodies everything, mainly pain and also the excessive amounts of emotion. So when it comes down to it, you'll find a lot of them have things like spikes or whips or any kind of
They
BDSM
look really
style gear
cool,
because it
though.
is unspeakable excess.
The birds, the Zeech birds. I've already forgot his name. The Zeech birds looked also really cool, even though it was like one image of them, but they looked really cool.
Of pleasure, everything in excess.
Do you have a
to the
tier list?
point
I don't
where
know,
it's
brother.
Sheer frightening. That is Slanesh in a nutshell. A little bit bizarre and a little hard to describe sometimes.
Oh, that looks
But as we talk
cool.
more about
What
the
is
Dark
that?
Eldar layer in this video, you'll understand it far
It's
better.
like an
and
enchantment
far more
from
than-
Magic the
And
Gathering.
you might be thinking, why would anyone ever want to join Chaos? They all look
Because they look cool. What?
horrifying, screwed up, and just frightening things.
I'd join them just because they look
Well,
cool.
the thing is that of course, one, your mind is put into the warp and the materium, so you can be easily
Hey,
swayed.
Twitch,
by
listen, it's not
chaos
my
and
fault you got
running
bad
into
internet.
your head, especially if you're a psyker.
Might be,
Sometimes
actually.
regiments of the less mentally strong people, whether they be civilians or say low-level guardsmen or conscripts, can be easily swayed by this and become chaos cultists and stuff, and they serve their dark gods and whatever god they
Make a Warhammer 40k factions tier list.
personally refer. However, and this might seem
That's an
strange,
idea.
chaos in their own right isn't necessarily evil.
Don't do puns.
See, the warp is every manifestation of
Pun
emotion,
tier
and
list,
being,
every single
soul,
pun.
everything of existence. This includes all the good things. All the different chaos gods have another side to their coin. Khorne might be death, murder, slaughter, slaughter, but he's also got this weird sense of survival of the fittest, trial by combat, and honor. Khorne will never lie to you. Corn will never stab you in the back.
Huns tier
Corn
list?
isn't about conniving and scheming. Corn is
Oh,
about
that's
straight up
cool.
mono, you versus me. Get in the ring. We're gonna murder each other hard right now.
Fine, Pun's
It may
tier
not
list.
be a good thing at the end of the day, but
It's
it
not.
is that other
It
side.
really
of
is
the
not.
coin. Him and Zeech generally don't get along because Zeech is that conniving schemer.
looks
But
cool.
he's also about the idea of hope. Where there is change for your predicament.
The change god in Stars and Time, my friends.
There's change for your problem. The hope of the galaxy, the ability to bend the world to your will, the idea that your fate is not set in stone, but in reality that you control your own destiny and can control whatever you want, the changer of ways. That is Zeech. And of course, Zeech and Nurgle hate each other because while Nurgle does represent
that makes sense,
stagnation, death, and decay, he also represents finality. An ending. The fact that you can be mentally at peace, knowing
This is
that
just one
you-
big in Stars and Time reference. I did a fact check myself in my great game thing, and it is canon, but there are multiple interpretations. Oh, okay. So there's multiple interpretations of what's written. So just in case someone does say that you're wrong, that's just the interpretation that I read.
and how you will end. Fear of the unknown,
Can't put
fear of change is not
You
present.
can't ever
with
put
Nurgle.
puns in
With
F. I
Nurgle,
will. Don't worry.
Everything will rot
Put
and
all of 'em.
die, and that provides that finality, that ability that this is over. We are all the same, and we will all end the same. We know the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to live and die
And die.
rot.
And die.
And with that, it brings
And die.
peace of mind. So
Did he say British peace of mind?
Slanesh is a lot more simple. While they are the excess of emotion, they are also
Is he
the
British?
representation
Hello,
of
Alex.
emotion.
The spoon is soon to come. That out of context is so menacing. It's like that one SpongeBob episode.
Slanesh embodies happiness.
Happiness.
Slanesh embodies
Happy.
excitement and
Yippee!
joy and pleasure, not only in the sense of the physical,
That's just, brother.
bam style
Bam.
of pleasure, but also everything else like food and drink and air on your cheek and sunlight.
There's like
the
this one
feeling,
SpongeBob episode.
Emotion and feeling. All of that is also represented with Slanesh. So you have to ask, why are they
murder
always
with spoon. Yeah,
represented
that
as
one.
super evil skulls and spikes on everything and want to murder everybody? I don't really got an answer for you on that one. My assumption is that because mentally humans may think worse thoughts even if we don't act on them, and therefore they're projected in the warp more. That one's a little bit weird. I don't know. This is me spitballing right now, but I don't know. You need a super bad guy. You already got the Imperium of Man. You need somebody to be a little bit worse than them. So you got
The Imperium of Man?
Honestly, who cares? I just want to buy like a bird magician. Look at
Dude,
him.
they look so
cool.
good.
So
That's
combining-
Zeech's, right? That's Zeech's stuff. They look really cool. The birds look awesome,
all
dude.
this together on the tabletop. Chaos demons are generally very melee based. They run in, go really hard. You have lots of summoning and conjuring, tons of spells. Generally a little bit frail, but they have special saves to make them a little bit stronger. You've got giant demons and smaller demons. You got hordes of little boys and
Little
tons of
boys.
big guys.
Whoa, that one looks
Demons
cool.
are, as they seem, demons. Nurgle is slow. Khorne is super scary in melee. You've got Zeech, who
Kairos
are far
Fate
more
Weaver?
psychers and spellcasting, and then Slanesh,
that what
who is all melee, really fast but squishy, but in lots of hordes of tons of melee and pain damage.
They look
of course.
cool as
so
well.
Overall,
They
the
also look
demons
cool.
are a huge part of 40k and a massive threat to almost
Oh,
every
dude.
single faction, with the exception of a couple.
HSR
However,
mentioned.
the big part about demons
Unhonored
is also
loses his mind.
transferred into the other 9 Primarchs that we talk about, which are the Chaos Space Marines.
The Chaos Space Marines? Chaos Astartes?
So Horus and all of his boys, all of them in the Primarchs,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have
yeah.
all also become Chaos Boys, and they
Chaos
all have their own special
Boys.
Chaos.
Wait, Horus, did he just, okay, so like Horus became, he became a little silly and he started like, worshipping the chaos gods, right? Did he worship any of them specifically? He's kind of red, so I'm guessing like maybe Khorne. And like he was fighting a lot, so I'm guessing I'm guessing like he probably, I don't know.
Legions
Khorne?
specializing in
Yeah,
so many
Khorne.
different things.
That's his
just
name.
Like the Adeptus Astartes, the Angels of Death.
I don't know
Right.
anything about well, I know very little about Horus. I'm guessing I don't know if it was like all of the chaos gods, if it was just one of them.
Regular Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines aren't a whole lot different than the regular Space Marines. They have the same armor, generally the same
Erebus?
training
Who's
and
Erebus?
toughness. They just specialize in different
is
kinds
Erebus?
of things. And also a lot of the Primarchs have ascended into is it greater demons? They're demon Primarchs at this point. Gigantic,
the green,
horrifying man-demon hybrids that are pretty awesome. If I'm gonna be honest, they look really, really.
There's a big
cool.
boy that looks like. Oh, yo, that's name from Elden Ring. Guy on horse, Elden Ring. Oh, it was my favorite boss. Am I stupid? Radon!
And their associated legions.
Radon! It looks like Radon. Like the two little swords here as well. It looks like Radon.
Kind of going out there and
Where's the
causing
horse?
a large ruckus for everyone else.
Thank you,
Considering the raw
Radon.
strength and firepower of a legion of Space Marines, imagine that entire legion just converting to chaos and immediately fighting you. It's generally pretty horrifying. There's a lot of them, so I gotta write them down. But you've got the Emperor's Children with Primarch Fulgrim, loyal to Slanesh.
Forgot about Radon. I just forgot about his name, dude. Listen, sorry.
People. They're just sensory overload. Tons of drugs, tons of torture. And I think Fulgrim is a demon Primarch right now. And oh god, I am terrified to see what that man looks like. At least on the tabletop, because Emperor's Children are not good people. You've got the Iron Warriors, which are kind of like opposite of the Imperial Fists, with Primarch Perturabo, I believe.
They're probably just a little racist.
They're Chaos Undivided. They just kind of serve
Nothing a bit of a
chaos
Bible
in
can't fix.
aspect instead of choosing one of four.
I don't know what
the
they
Iron
did.
Warriors are big on the siege and fortification, and they're basically entirely against the Imperial Fists on a major
He let himself go a bit.
Perturabo, I believe,
Yeah.
is also still alive, and
Stopped
I'm
fighting.
also very interested to see what he looks like, because Demon Primarchs are badass. You've got the Night Lords with Primarch Conrad Kurz. Conrad Kurz is dead.
Conrad?
Which is good, because he's a sick fuck. But the Night Lords are generally about terrorizing people and terrorism.
That's cool.
They're generally about fear, and
that's cool.
Rightly so. You've got the World Eaters with Primarch Angron, still alive. Also excited to see. Angron. If you think you've known an angry person, Angron is the angriest son of a bitch you will ever know. Angron removed parts of his brain that didn't make him angry, so he could be angrier. Angron. Fucker's mad. You've got the Death Guard with Primarch.
That's so stupid. That's so cool. This guy here looks absolutely awesome.
Mortarion, they actually have their own special codex and their own major army on the tabletop. Mortarion himself is actually one of the models, and look at him.
That
Look
looks
at him. It's so cool looking.
It
of
is.
course, Nurgle based, obviously. So very slow,
mad.
but very tanky.
You've got your brain rot video. I'll probably laugh at it.
Lorgar is, I believe, still alive. I don't know what's up with him at the current moment, but the Word Bearers are people who caused all the major problems in the beginning. At least I blame them for it. They're little assholes. You got the Black Legion with Primarch Horus. Get fucked, nerd. You've got the Alpha Legion with Primarch Alfarius Megon. Chaos, I think. And then finally, you've got the Thousand Sons with Primarch Magnus the Nerd. The Thousand Sons also have their own book, just like the Death Guard.
Magnus
look like
a Chaos
tabletop model.
They look very chaos-y.
Super cool, as you can tell, and they're all super heavily
Psyker
and kind of Egyptian themed. They look pretty neat.
A little bit,
but
yeah.
overall, with all of these Chaos Space
Hugo.
Marine factions,
Hi.
you can play as a lot of different ones, but the main ones that you can really work at are standard Space Marines.
This is Warhammer.
Marines, as well
Factions.
as Death Guard and Thousand
Warhammer
Sons,
Factions.
as they are the most fleshed out, especially on the tabletop at least. See this right here? This is a really good way to describe
Let me turn it down a little bit.
Chaos Space Marines. What the thick-headed fools with their broken corpse of an emperor fail to understand is that not only can they never defeat us, but they cannot hide or flee or shield themselves from the triumph of chaos. They are finite and we are unbound, undivided. They must not err, or they shall fall to heresy. All who resolve join our cause. Every imperial fool who dares to open his eyes is a willing recruit. They strive merely to hold back our fury and might, and it consumes them. Thus, you can see chaos is inevitable. We lurk not only beyond their grasp and at their gates, we lurk within the darkness of their souls, on the tip of their tongues, in their tortured dreams. We are them, but freed from the shackles of ignorance. We are them, grown strong, evolved. We are them, but so much more.
We are them, but so much
as that
more.
Is, the saddest part is they're mostly right. Chaos is basically unkillable. You could probably get rid of Space Marines, a decent amount, the Chaos Space Marines that is, but every soul that dies goes to the warp. Every Chaos soul will end up back in the warp. And depending on how hard you
respawn
kill
machine.
them, they will come back at some point.
A respawn machine. That's dude, that's TF2.
Every demon you banish will return at some point. Chaos is unstoppable.
I don't know.
The warp
Blue emesis. It's blue emesis.
unending. And while maybe there is at some point some
It's emesis
way
blue.
to
It's emesis
stop them
blue.
somehow, the resources to do so, the requirements to do so, are so far beyond the reaches of man and the other races. at the
Emesis
current
red.
moment
It's emesis
that
red.
Really, it's just an unstoppable force that just keeps on coming,
He must
and it's just
air.
barely being slowed.
I do not
Chaos
know.
is by far
No.
the biggest threat. They are without number. Their legions are everywhere, and
Chaos is the big
they're
bad.
pretty
Okay.
scary.
They are
So,
pretty
I
bad.
promise we're done with humans now. Let's talk about some Xenos.
Xenos. The Eldar.
So let's
The
talk
song.
about the Eldar, or also known as the Eldari, which are a super
Eldari.
hyper-specialized and very technologically advanced race of, well, elf people. They were, as well, responsible for the creation
of Slaanesh.
Slaanesh,
Yes.
the newest
I know that.
demon god. How'd they do that?
A lot of the sensory, because they have like a lot of emotions. Their emotions are like heightened. And so like if they get like whatever they
Tree on a world-ending scale.
Yeah.
See, back in the day, it was just Khorne,
on
Tzeentch,
coming.
and Nurgle. And the Eldar are
I remember that from the
very ancient, millions of years. These Eldar, however, have a bit of a sensory problem. You know, every kind of pain or
Sonic the
feeling
Hedgehog.
you have is a little bit amplified compared to the normal.
Yeah,
However, with Eldar,
I remember that
as
from
their
the
race advanced so excessively, and they became so self-reliant, and everything became so easy. There was no requirement
They were
for
playing the
food
games
production
on
anymore.
easy.
There was no shortages. Everything was basically done. Everyone was so
Think of it this way: the robot green people, they were playing on ultra nightmare difficulty, while these guys were playing on beginner. They were like tutorial difficulty. If the
And that
whole game
comfort
was like tutorial
breeded
difficulty.
This weird sedation, and that sedation breeded the requirement for more and more debauchery.
Debauchery.
When
Who are these?
everything you have can be so easily acquired, you will end up down this road of pure debauchery. All of the senses the Eldar had that were so powerful, things like feeling, happiness, sadness, and just evil and good, all needed to be satisfied and satiated. And the desire to satiate these senses
Sonic or
grew
Mario?
more
Sonic.
and more with worse
Sonic.
and worse debauchery. It started off with
Games-wise,
things
Mario.
like sex and drugs becoming so much more rampant because of these are the first things you generally turn to when requirements for living are so easily accessible.
Yeah,
It
substances.
would get to the point that made Sander Cohen in BioShock look sane. All right, this is the kind of debauchery it led to. It was constantly satisfying and satiating these sexual and sadistic or masochistic fantasies that only
BioShock, it
This was
is.
species-wide. People started going down darker, more
pleased me.
depraved,
Excuse me?
and more violent paths as time went on. However,
Yeah.
some people didn't entirely take to that. Some of the Eldar were looking at this depraved species that they had become and said,
Absolutely
no
not.
thanks for me, dog, I'm good. And they bailed. These are the Craft World Eldar. They
Craft
left on
World.
these
Minecraft.
giant
Minecraft.
continent-sized starships
Minecraft.
called Craft Worlds.
Craft
They
Worlds.
believed in learning the
I'll
old
drink water.
ways of the Eldar and pushing away from this depravity and debauchery and going back to their main roots. And so they would segment themselves on these giant craft worlds far in the outer reaches
That looks like the arrow from JoJo. JoJo's Donation.
of space. They even had this thing called the Webway. Remember what we mentioned about
Oh yeah,
warp
it's like
travel?
the warp travel but safe
Imperium?
because it
Well,
doesn't use the
Eldar has
warp.
something way safer called a Webway. And the Eldar Webway is actually like a
Drink
pocket
water.
dimension kind of thing. And in that pocket dimension, there were
hydrated,
also more
Walter.
horrible,
Oh my
depraved
Jesus.
groups and clans that would spend their time in there. And if you imagine the debauchery was bad already, these were
They get
debauchery
warts?
X10.
Oh.
So all of this continued, and it continued, and it bloated until Slaanesh just burst forth. All that emotion, all that mental,
She went
well, thought
Minecraft
processes, I
block
suppose.
sound.
All of this in such a condensed space. Don't forget, this is all being shot.
She bursted.
All
She
their
busted.
souls as well into the warp. All this depravity right into the warp. So what happened? Boom! Slaanesh was birthed and killed off 90% of the entire Eldar population. Untold trillions
into existence.
had their souls ripped from their bodies and their actual fleshy bodies devoured by Slaanesh demons. The entirety of the Eldar race was eaten alive and their souls consumed to the Prince of Pleasure. All of them got fucked up. It was so bad that it literally ripped a warp hole into the fabric of the materium called the Eye of Terror. That's literally this like quasi horrifying gateway portal from the materium and the immaterium right next to Cadia.
What happened to Cadia? It was destroyed.
Horrifying. So this Slaanesh, also known as
okay, so like it opened a portal to next to so it opened a portal to Heck next to a planet, and the planet was destroyed. I'm guessing that's what happened.
He who thirsts by the Eldar
Did I say horny on me?
slaughtered the entire population except for a couple.
that was my bad. That was my bad. That was a bad pause.
Not affected by this, as they were so far in the reaches of the galaxy. That crazy crack that birthed Slaanesh.
Planet, remember Cadia? The planet broke before the guard did. That does sound sad.
Only
got a new phone for Christmas.
In the center.
Good for you.
So these Craft World Eldar were able to escape, but Slaanesh got their sights on them.
I got chocolate.
Every time an Eldar will die, their soul doesn't just pass into the warp naturally.
I have it right here on my table.
It goes straight to Slaanesh,
Oh.
Craft World or not. What about those people in the webway? Well, imagine that giant birth happening, but they were only able to just barely get a grasp onto you. Slaanesh was just barely able to hold on. These people are the Dark Eldar, or also known as the Drukhari. The Eldar population right now is so massively small. It is minuscule compared to any of the other most of the other populations in the universe. The Eldar are consistently having issues trying to get their population up because as their souls are constantly being hungered by from Slaanesh, they realize their entire species is doomed. And they understand it very well. Since the time of the fall, our race has been haunted.
We got another one of these.
Lock in. Pursuit of hedonistic indulgence gave birth to. Though our dreams once overturned worlds and quenched suns, we are now but fitful shadows clinging to the edge of existence. All the stars in the sky cannot blot out the hateful glare of the red moon's eye. The birthing place of the great enemy pulses with all the malice of a demon that is dreaming, casting its shadow over all we have ever done and all we ever shall. Every twisted strand of fate and casting of the runes leads me to this time, to this place, and it is clear that the final battle awaits me at the ancient Crone worlds. A conflict the likes of which has not been seen since the Monkai warred amongst themselves and their corpse of the seer fell to his traitorous son. Is coming, and all my steps lead towards it, no matter that I walk other paths. I see the stars stained red with the blood of the Monkai, and though their wars do not concern me, I would gladly let them destroy one another. I know that to avoid this fight is to condemn my race to inevitable doom, and though all I see is darkness, I know that I will not flinch from my destiny. And now let's talk about cute plastic models.
Bro, I'm straight up not having a good time.
The first playable race we have in
Blood War
are the Craft World Eldar and living in those Craft Worlds earlier. And each of them have their own kind of Craft World, almost like a Space Marine Legion. Each Craft World is in itself its own special kind of group. And the Eldar themselves are very
I'm guessing the Craft World are like planet-sized ships from the name.
And rely a lot on trickery. They are squishy.
I know he mentioned it before, but like, I don't remember.
Psychers. tons of psychers across the entire Eldar population, and their weaponry and abilities are fast and extremely hard-hitting, but of course rather fragile. Understanding an
glass
Eldar's
cannons.
brain is an exercise in futility. They are all over the place in confusion and trickery on a whole galactic scale.
ADHD.
They fight weird, they think weirder, and Eldar, in their own right,
Can relate.
really rely on this to keep their species alive. They
They're
need
extremely
to think about deception
hard.
and the strangeness
go.
of what they do if they truly want to not be immediately murdered and slaughtered wholesale, thanks to their entirely small population. However, I must say that it seems like their population is getting slightly better. These craft worlds hold millions upon millions of people, and as they continually, you know, reproduce and have their craft worlds expand, losing a few people in battle, while hurts a lot, they aren't really losing what's extremely precious to them. It's not like every single death means the death of their species. It seems like they're kind of on the upturn a little bit. There's still a doomed race being sucked into Slaanesh every time someone dies, but they are definitely doing a little bit better than they were before. Eldar are fast, cunning, and what they don't make up for in tankiness, they make up for in extremely advanced weaponry. They also call humans Monkai, which is something I mentioned earlier.
Monkai.
That is a derogatory slur for humans in the
Bonkai.
Warhammer world. Why is it called Monkai? Well, it's because you can't, in your game, call people monkeys. On the tabletop, exactly what I said.
Oh, it's Ava. It's Ava.
Not very tanky. Generally pretty squishy. Hit like trucks and move at Mach 5. Fast,
That's
hit
so
hard,
cool.
die fast. Exactly how it sounds. They've been good for a very long time.
They have Avas
We bring
now?
only death and leave only carry on.
What is
it
carry on?
It is a message even a human can
They
understand.
have Avas.
Eldar. So, Drukhari. Let's talk about the Dark Eldar.
Dark Drukhari. She looks like a Magic the Gathering card.
That's fucked up.
So those people I mentioned in the Webway, in
Carry On
the
is a game?
super
Oh.
deranged cults and the depraved people of the Eldar, in the Webway they didn't quite get a hold onto them. So Slaanesh like has them, but it has them on like by the
corpse.
pinky finger, and they're slowly being consumed by Slaanesh. But they found out they can stave her off by doing Slaanesh things. The Dark Eldar are
How does that
by
work?
far the worst,
How does that work?
most horrifying, disgusting, depraved, and brutal race in all of Warhammer 40k. These are entirely a group of people whose full purpose to save their species from extinction, to go into planets, raid them, and take as many slaves as they possibly can to torture them for 1, 5, 10, 20, a million years, because that torture will keep them from dying. They look very BDSM style too. They definitely have a lot more spiky bits, and they have a lot more of that kind of leathery black look to them. But let's example. Let's say you are an upstanding Imperial citizen living life on a regular planet. You get invaded by the Necrons.
The Necron.
Necrons will shoot you with a deatomizer.
This is the green robots that I mentioned earlier. I forgot their name.
And you will be destroyed in a millisecond, and that's it. Not the worst way to go. You are invaded by Chaos Marines or something. You take a bolter shot to the head or a chain sword across your stomach, and you get cut in half.
Immediately die.
Painful, but not the worst. The Orks arrive. They beat you to death. Hurts, but, you know, whatever. Tyranids, they eat you alive. It's pretty rough. The Dark Eldar. The Dark Eldar. This is going to get a little graphic. I apologize.
Ooh.
You pray you die. You don't. You are instead taken as a human slave. Your life will be endless work and agony, 24/7. They will make sure you can't not die, as your pain satisfies them. They will hook you up to all manner of torture devices. They will inject pain-based like stimuli drugs directly into your nervous system. They will slowly run razor blades across your skin. They will fillet you and pull out your teeth and your fingernails one by one. They will remove your appendages and your skin and wait for it to grow back so they can do it again. They will murder and torture and use the R word, it rhymes with grape, your entire family in front of you, and do the exact same thing to them. You yourself will also be rhymes with grape anywhere and everywhere
Okay.
possible. And this will occur for 20 years until you are no longer satisfying to them. And then you will be contorted, crushed, and twisted into some form of trophy, a fleshy trophy, or a ring, or a couch, or a TV stand, or perhaps a wonderful hat, while you are, of course, still alive and breathing. And you will become a moaning, fleshy trophy for eternity. And that is what happens when you are taken by the Dark Eldar. They are the most depraved, most horrifying race in all of 40k. They look the part, and they do it so they all don't die. They are literally forced to do this, because if they don't, Slaanesh's grip will get harder, and they will have their souls pulled away. So long as they keep doing this.
Okay. So, not cool. Not very fun.
Slaanesh is like, "You're doing good, man. You're doing solid. You keep that shit up, you elf-eared bastards." That's the Dark Eldar. That's the Drukhari. They are horrible. On the tabletop, they're actually kind of like Eldar, but more extreme. They are even squishier than the Eldar, but they hit generally even harder. Fast attacks, skirmishers, really quick, speedy, like get around them, do a lot of damage, get away kind of stuff. That's the most of the Dark Eldar.
Oh, I see,
Look up the
I see.
definition of grim dark in a dictionary. You'll find a picture of the Dark Eldar.
No!
And
Do not
set
smash the Dark...
Public Commando.
We do not smash the
quote
Dark Eldar.
From Mr. Vecht. "We are the lords of despair, masters of terror. Dread and agony are our meat and wine, and they are plentiful indeed." Dark Eldar.
Dark
Some of the
Eldar.
Harlequins. Clowns.
Clowns! The Harlequins. Joker! Why so
Harlequins are a
serious?
bizarre race of Eldar. They're demonic
Murgo's a lullaby from
clown
Bloodborne.
performers. They're like a weird mix of Sander Cohen from Bioshock.
Why so
and
serious?
Jin from
Jonkler.
League of Legends, but in a more clown theme. They're artists of death and perfecters of their craft.
Why
They don't
so
belong to Craft
serious?
Worlds or any of the weird Drukhari people. They guard something called the Black Library, which is this giant.
Why couldn't it be the
ending
purple
knowledge
library?
deep in the heart of the Eldar webway, and also guarded by their god named Kegorok, I believe is how you pronounce his
Kegorok?
name. He is the laughing god, but
The
it's
laughing
Eldar's
god.
laughing god. And these are the Harlequins, the Harlequin clowns. These are Eldar clowns. Okay,
Oh.
so imagine the things that an
Uh-huh.
Eldar, these depraved individuals, would find funny, and this is the god of that. It's a horror. clown.
What?
These are gods of horror for us normal people. For them, they're like, oh, it's so funny. They're all dying horribly. Honk, honk. They're very
honk.
bizarre and
I gotta turn this down a little bit.
describe. They've escaped the ruinous powers of Slaanesh somehow, but their main thing is
Goblin
guarding that
looking,
black library. And the Harlequins
honk honk.
just... They're demon clown performers. They're barely any models on the tabletop. They're good in melee. They're demon clowns. I'm not sure. I got a quote. "It is too
I got a
easy for an
quote.
Eldar to embrace the obscene virtues of chaos, for Slaanesh is nothing more than a manifestation of the Eldar mind in its most wild and unconstrained form. Human morality is meaningless to the Eldar, and to the dark side of the Eldar
Human morality is meaningless to the Eldar. That's a line.
mind, all life
That is
to
one
be
of the lines of all
expended
time.
At a whim. Cruelty and generosity are but the impulse of a moment. Beauty and sensuality are virtues that can be expressed in bloodshed just as easily as in song. To an unfettered Eldar mind, there is neither sanity nor madness, but merely a wave of perfect existence fulfilled by its own savage momentum." They're very strange.
Whoa.
Harlequins, Drukhari, Eldar, they are an
Harlequins,
anomaly
the
that
Batman.
make humans.
When do we
seem
get the
completely
Batman,
easy to understand in
Eldar?
comparison. They range from
When do we get the
rekindling their
Jonkler Batman and when do we get the Batman Eldar?
civilization to horrifying murder and also clowns. They're all over the place, but honestly, they represent quite well.
Guys,
and
we do
are
not
rather
smash the
interesting,
Dark
especially
Elves.
The whole Slaanesh murdering everyone bit. So, yeah.
No
Eldar.
smashing the no.
Now, bugs.
Down.
Come on, they following me.
Tyranids! Let's go!
The bugs.
The bu- the bu-
Tyranids.
The Tyranids, dude. We're finally here. This is the one that I wanted to see. The Tyranids, my boys.
Now,
They look
you want something a little
awesome.
more fun, a little more simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans. Let's stop
Yeah.
the Tyranids. They're bugs. Do they look like Zerg? Hell yeah, they look like Zerg. You want to know why they look like Zerg? Because they were actually supposed to be what Zerg were. Apparently StarCraft was supposed to be a
StarCraft.
40k game in the beginning.
Why is that
Hence
so
why they look so
laggy?
much like Eldar, Zerg, and the Imperium of Man. Like kind of Space Marines, huh?
They
That's a little bit
do.
Space Marine-y to me.
StarCraft. I used to play a lot of
I
StarCraft.
don't know. You really fucked up on that
Not a
one,
lot,
Games
but-
Workshop.
That is, dude. That is so laggy. That's so laggy. Why is that so bad? It didn't change anything.
Stop, didn't ya? Tyranids are a giant infestation of unfathomable proportions. These are giant, extremely bio-advanced.
They're like that one thing from they're like that one I forgot their name. I've never played Helldivers. That one thing, the one enemy from Helldivers.
Hive mind organisms.
Enemy type.
That are basically
Enemy race.
all about absorbing
bugs.
as
I forgot.
much
I never played.
biomass
I've never
as they
played it.
possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely potent and powerful and kill and eat anything in their path. They are probably the least evil
You know what that means, fish.
Fish.
faction in all of 40k
The
because
same name,
all
I
they want to
think?
do is eat shit.
Wait, do they? They have the same name in the thing?
They want
Fish.
to nom nom the entire galaxy. They hangry.
Oh, they hungry boys. Like me for real. The
and
hungry
eat food.
boys.
Also, this Tyranid hive mind has a presence in the warp. In
Yeah,
fact,
I've seen that thing
Tyranids
before.
in their own right have a massive presence in the warp. They have a thing called the shadow in the warp specifically, where when they are
Shadow
coming
in the warp?
to invade a planet, they have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the psychers on that planet. And how do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to
Oh.
call for help from the Tyranids, these are just easy pickings. And an entire giant Tyranid hive fleet comes out of orbit and just will massacre,
have the same name as Tyranids?
absorbing all that biomass and turning them
think it
and
sounded
all of
similar
their
as well.
other Tyranids into
Might just be
even
the
more
same.
advanced monsters. They come in so many varieties too, all based on what is important. Tiny little ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormigons, Termagants, and Gene Stealers, all the way to the Hive Guard.
We got more videos after this one.
Swarm Lord, to Hive Tyrants and their giant battle fleets.
Go
and
ahead,
even
Hugo.
something as crazy as the Hierophant.
Terminids, that's what they're called in Helldivers.
The Tyranids come in all forms and sizes depending
Oh no, not the Suffer. I changed the thing, yeah.
on what they require.
Forgot to say.
They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you can plague them or blight them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and such. Tyranids are nigh
They look
perfect organisms
so
and are
cool.
pretty spooky
You can suffer?
when
I
it
can
comes down
suffer.
to how they handle all of their genetic material.
I'm not
Keep
watching the
feeding them,
mushroom
they'll
brain
keep
rot, no.
evolving. They keep on creating new
I'll watch that
horrifying
after.
organisms to spread across the galaxy. And you want to know what the most terrifying part of the Tyranids is? We
What?
might be surrounded. There have been like around 6 or 7 Tyranid hive fleets. Behemoth, Kronos, all these different kinds of hive fleets. And they've all
Behemoth,
arrived in the
Kronos?
galaxy from different points. Different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had
Oh.
different Tyranids come through. And that is horrifying. Because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded on all sides
That's
by Tyranids. The only reason
That's
you may not hear a
cool.
whole lot about Tyranids is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch
my first experience with Warhammer, my first like main one was Space Marines 2. I saw some people play it, and in that game, like the main enemies are Tyranids. I know. I still want to play it. I still really want to play it on stream because I don't really know much of it. I just saw some, like a little bit of gameplay. But like, I really wanna play that. And the main enemies in that game were the Tyranids, like I said. And so I thought that they were like probably one of the main enemies of like Warhammer.
bunch of story off of one hive mind genocidal monsters. All these giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving. Oh, I mean, as cool as there are some cool characters. the
giving
Swarm Lord,
Destiny
Old One Eye,
2
you can't really have a
Hive.
whole bunch of major character-based stories around them. As awesome as they are,
Entropy
they're simple.
02. I'll check it out.
They want to eat you and absorb your biomass. They are simple bugs. If you want something a little more complex, Talk gene stealer cults.
I can have all the pot I want, I get around faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat,
What?
I can just sit on my balls.
Gene stealer cults are a special
Fucking
brand
zero.
of Tyranid that can slowly infect themselves.
I told you, you can
into
tell
different
tell me
kinds of
what video you
society. And
want me
by
to watch.
infecting
Hugo,
them,
you can
they
tap it in chat.
rise up to where they all pray and believe.
I do have Half-Life
in
2.
these regular humans pray and believe into their Tyranid hive mind gods. And these brood lords and
Wait, the Tyranids have gods as well?
patriarchs all can turn an entire world.
Oh
all
wait, yeah, I'm
based
stupid.
into
Oh,
gene
yeah, I read that. I read
and
that.
these are called gene stealer cults. An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but servants to the Tyranid masters just by infecting them and screwing with their genetic code a little bit. They also have this cool
Oh.
like Mad Max look, which is really neat.
They
They
do
are
have a
definitely
little bit of a
one
Mad
the
Max
threats to the
vibe, yeah.
Imperium Besides Chaos, I keep saying biggest threat to the Imperium. They're
I'm
up
not
there,
playing
though,
HSR,
because
no.
You dingus
Play it on my
stepped
phone.
on a bug in middle school. Asshole. There is a cancer eating at the Imperium. With each decade, it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale. And all
I
we
am
can
not
do is
watching. I'm gonna watch other videos. Maybe I'll watch what you want, Hugo.
to try
Maybe.
and stop the swarms of bioengineered monsters.
I've read it. I've seen what you wanted.
We have given the horror a name to salvage our fears. We call it the Tyranid race. But if it is
Tyranid
aware of us, it must know us as nothing
Tyranid.
but prey. Tyranids. They're cool.
They're cool.
But are they as cool as the orcs?
Maybe.
That means I'm super fast!
Now
Orcs,
here,
orcs.
now this is cool.
Orcs. I fucking love orcs.
Shrek.
So, yes, the green
Shrek.
monsters, the green tide, the green skins. These orcs, they are in fact a race in 40k.
My people?
The orcs are
Are the orcs
as-
cool? I mean, I don't know. I didn't even know orcs existed up until like not long ago. So this'll be new. They look cool. They look like Shrek.
exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them.
Yeah.
The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering each other. Orcs are so cool. Orcs
What?
don't
Is that
have
lore?
philosophy. Orcs don't have existential crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy because he the biggest orc. He big orc. Big orc knows best. You win
Big
through the
orc
power of
know best.
imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war as machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? As an orc, you're enjoying life. You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is
you
the
can play the
man who
first-
understands
first,
everything.
but the second
He
one is
the
just so much
boss.
better.
And orcs
And
have
Ruby
this
Zero?
really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which
Cool.
is just hilarious to me. Those
Chelsea,
are
you hear
orcs.
that?
You fight.
Stereotypical.
You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war.
All
'cause
of the
you want
orcs
to
are British. They are my people. All. Rip and dare. Rip and dare.
wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss,
You're
the
dead.
boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs, and then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because orc dead.
Orc
Orcs
dead.
They scrap.
I thought this was a Christmas tree for a
their
second.
machines out of parts
Look-
that don't make any sense, and because they
look like a
believe,
Christmas
they have
tree.
the mental imagination that that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're
Oh wait, yeah, that's the thing that he said like one of the last videos. Like, if you believe that the thing that a machine will run, like it will.
driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not.
That
I
time.
filled the fucking gas tank
spam
up
it.
earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on, and it works again. Does it have
Cool.
gas? Probably
No.
not. But it works. The
It
power
work.
of imagination. They paint things red because it makes them think they goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also
Cool.
like ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Orks, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just Orks, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're
very happy. Only 10 more points to
they're
VIP.
not very well armored, but they hit really hard, and it's called the Green Tide because there are so many Orks. There are about as many Orks as there are Tyranids, maybe more. Who knows? But they keep on, you know, murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue. Orks are entirely comic relief. Their stuff is slapped together.
Dude.
That makes no sense. Their vehicles,
but it works because of the power of friendship.
Because they think it works, because they imagine that it works. Orks care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the
Ender
biggest
Lilies.
orc,
I'm going to
they'll
finish
challenge
Ender
the
Lily
biggest
someday.
orc.
Don't worry.
And then when they go and they issue
still there.
a
I haven't
just
gotten rid of it.
in orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up.
Yeah.
That's Orks. And on
Those
the
are
tabletop,
Orks.
they are a total coin flip.
I will
and
finish
they're
someday.
really fun. I have never
finish
met
it.
a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy.
I feel like
Orc
I'd
players have this
actually
kind
want
of
to
fun
play
them
orcs.
because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing.
It's completely RNG. Wait, really?
Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit
They're
their
so much fun.
target.
They
50%
sound fun.
Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super well trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a
What?
6, they get to make another shot with anything from the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're
Cool.
so wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc.
That's what happens when you play orcs.
Which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way. It's
That
just a
looks
roll of
so
the dice. You're playing a dice
cool.
game. But if you're gonna have fun, and you want to be stupid, and you want to be silly, you're gonna play some damn orcs. But on the opposite side of the fun part of this, let's talk about the
Oh, we
Necrons.
have the Necrons. What is this?
The Necrons are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again. They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just undead Egyptian space terminators, and they still look that way.
Cool.
but
They
never
still look
actually
like that.
story.
Yeah, they still look like
So
that.
way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of.
Yeah, because they turned into the Necrons because they made they like talked to they like had a deal with let's go. They made a deal with one of like the gods, and like the gods said I bet, and turned them into that, and turned them into the thing. Also, I'll get you VIP after this video ends, don't worry.
See a theme here: Eldari, Eldar, Krork, Orc, Necron, Necron.
Nice,
tier.
very nice
The
lag.
Necron tier were this race of generally kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron tier was just really depressing. They really were looking for immortality. They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key
Now
to
I die in
living
peace.
forever
Bye-bye.
and to stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like
Yeah, the old ones, the old
Forerunners
ones.
in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right? These old ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings, and they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways. And the old ones said,
Nah.
piss off. Not really. They were a lot more humble about it, but they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course.
Oh,
took
okay,
this
okay, nice.
very well and waged war with them, kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't really like each other, but under this one, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite
Silent
his race
King.
was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out
It's
of
just
spite
cringe.
for them keeping the secret of immortality to them. This was
It's
known as the War
cringe.
in Heaven, and this is actually like a multi-stage war. Because during this war in heaven, they discovered the Star Gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan.
That looks Catan.
These Star Gods were also very much like Old Ones,
Us.
almost omnipotent beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey, can you help us fight off the Old Ones? Can you help us kill these Old Ones?
Oh yeah, wait, no, it wasn't. The old one said no. Catan actually helped them, but like trapped their bodies into like
Catan
robots.
said yes, and in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek. So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact
Ooh.
with the Catan.
Why do they
to
look? Why do
allow
they have like skulls as heads? Like you don't need the skulls.
them to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them. But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap.
Well, in that case, Lag, listen, I can give you entertainment, bro, but I'm not a therapist, dude.
And the Necrons were
I'll make you laugh.
dragged in chains to this biotransference.
Fashion
where
choice.
their
No, I'm not
flesh
judging. I think it looks cool, but like, I think it looks cool. I'm just saying, like, doesn't. I don't know. Like, maybe there's like more. I don't know. A better design.
was stripped from them.
Everything just
replaced
gets
with
cool.
nothing
Yeah, like
but a
it's cool. It
metal
looks
hollow
cool.
Shell as their souls were ripped from their bodies.
Like a more efficient
and
design.
sent
I don't know.
to the Catan, and the Catan fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will. And then with
There's an
their
explanation for the skull.
newfound
No, I'm not saying like I'm not hoping for an explanation for the skulls. I'm just saying like surely there's a more efficient design, you know? I don't know.
Army, they pointed their guns at the Old Ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide, complete and full genocide of these Old Ones.
Yeah, slavery.
The Old Ones did their best to stave it off. They even created other races, the Eldar and the Orks, to try to fight off the horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the Old Ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire race completely removed.
The Old Ones were humble, and they got humbled.
Full-on 100% genocide. However,
they don't care about
during all this,
efficiency.
Catan,
They just care if it looks
so
cool, yeah.
infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences.
Fun.
Doesn't matter. The Catan, with these overpowered people, they're going to eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldar and the Orks actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full-scale revolt against their Catan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after
Pokeballs.
suffering horrendous losses,
Sans Undertale.
were able to turn the tide of the war. And they took these Catan and they blasted them. Because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of
that won't ever backfire. Don't worry about it.
gods enslaved to them, they realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Orks. And so what they did is they retreated into giant
guava
stasis
juice?
tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back, and they see all these primitive races on their lawns, and they think, get the fuck off of it. The Necrons are back, super advanced, and they are here to reclaim the galaxy that they so rightfully believe is theirs. Now, at tabletop,
And they still, to my knowledge, didn't make a safe warp travel.
they're a lot like that. Tons of
I don't even know if they
undead
use the warp.
Egyptian skeleton robots. that
Heck,
when they
maybe they did. Maybe they did. I'm just spouting nothing.
die, they
And I'm just cooking
get
nothing.
right back up because they
Why is he holding a watermelon?
keep on reanimating. Hard to kill. Tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with. It's pretty cool. The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40k. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves
Aloe
are pretty
vera? I have no
cool
idea what that
as well.
is.
Here's a good quote from a wonderful Donna.
Oh, lock in?
Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs, I was remade. Here, my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more. Necrons
Kronos
are also
will
pretty
be-
smug.
Oh,
Trazen
that's
the Infant
Trazen.
especially. A little
Mr.
dickhead.
Steer Girl.
But speaking of dickheads,
Trazen.
last race. Let's talk the Tau.
We made a fucking Wookiee.
The exact
Tau.
formation
What
of the
is he
Tau
using?
Empire is not entirely understood.
There's
However,
a theory that the Omniscient is actually a Catan slash Catan Shard that escaped and is hiding inside Mars. I don't know if I believe it, but there's some evidence to back it up. Someone in the comments is gonna flame you for saying something like that.
a long time ago, many thousands of years ago, in the 40k world, that is, some Imperial navigation
You might be
vessels
right,
were
but like
going around
someone's gonna say you're
areas,
wrong.
And they saw a primitive race, blue people,
Blue
smacking
people,
each other with
Smurfs.
sticks and stones. They thought, yeah,
Yeah, it's the
dumb
video.
Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks. Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire. And now they have gigantic
Yes, Hugo,
starships
all
and
of it will.
Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here
the
to ruin your day
mechs.
for the greater good.
The greater
That is
good,
generally
yes.
the Tau Empire. They have this kind of
Bricky
feeling
skirt
of
smash.
this
True.
homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo.
Oh, the Covenant.
where
Oh, yeah,
they
that
have
makes
the overarching
sense. Yeah.
prophets, being the ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to pull at strings a little bit, but then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread their weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien
Okay.
is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him his ignorance. Seek to
Pity him
understand
his ignorance.
differences and equate him with his inadequacies. Only then will he accept his place in the greater good. That is generally the Tau. And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles.
Evas.
And
Oh no, this looks like a one of the I forgot their names because it's been a while. One of the robots from Code Geass. Code Geass.
guns. They got giant mechs with tons of missile
Yoda
pods and heavy rail rifles and rail guns. And
Yeah, they look
burst
like the
cannons,
robots.
accelerators,
I forgot what they're
force
what they're
shields, all
called.
this stuff. And that is generally what
The
the town's all
Smurfs.
about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil. This doesn't sound very grim, dark Warhammer. And you'd be right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else.
Oh, they're
much
actually
more
the good guys.
Younger, new age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So see, the Tau get a lot of hate, and a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective, but as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently,
they're just chill. They're show guys for real.
In the 40k universe very well.
They really
lack
don't. They feel
super
like a sore
dark,
thumb. They really stand out.
High gothic level the Imperium has. They don't have the weird kind of like grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orks do. And the Necrons,
yeah, they're just
and the
really
Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like
the
something out of Gundam. And while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does definitely not fit too well.
It
There's
really
that.
doesn't.
There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are horrible at melee combat, but exceptionally good at ranged combat. So they blast everyone from really, really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time, because they're the Tau, and the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons.
Yo, the guava juice is back. Let's go.
Both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues,
you need to eat some
chocolate. Should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes. Of course I will, but it's all
the weeaboo jokes.
Fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool.
W opinion.
What you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions.
This is coming from someone who plays a lot of Magic the Gathering and has a Kalia deck. For those who play Magic the Gathering, you will know what that means. For those who don't, I am a jerk.
Things get better and they get worse. They grow and then they fall.
And consequently, a lot of people don't want to play with me.
You should only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models. If you're talking tabletop, that is what you should
I also have an Atraxa Praetor's Voice deck.
Be going for.
You know what kind of player I am.
Or every time is what you think is badass, because things change all the time. But the universe of
that was been a much better balance now. But when the video released how we're pseudo banned, or at least frowned upon. Oh, I see.
Every faction.
Yeah, this video is pretty old. A little bit.
Every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told. The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, if anything you could take away is the reason
there was only war. In the grim, dark future, there is only war.
You like it so much because with so much variety,
and play with you, Magic? I'd be down.
And so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank you so much for watching this video.
It is pretty cool. I really do want to get into the tabletop now. I'm really interested in checking out the tabletop now. I'm not gonna lie. Like all of the little models look awesome. I know nothing about how the game actually works, but it sounds cool. Like it sounds pretty cool. I think I'd either do Sisters of Battle or Orks or the Space Marines. Some of the Space Marines. They are like the one that sort of spoke to me the most. Orks just looks fun. Orks just looks so much fun to play. Sisters of Battle just look cool. And Ultramarines also just look cool. But the Orks just like sounds fun to play. But yeah, very good video overall. Now I know more about Warhammer, and now I'm actually interested in checking out the board game. This did a good job in getting me invested. Thank you, Bricky. Thank you, Bricky.